out, and where the daughters them love tear out. White house, dark white house, dark white house, tear out. White house, and where the daughters them love, and where the daughters them tear out.
Good evening. Good evening. Once again, um, thank you for joining CWS. I think we are having an echo here tonight, so just give me 1 second. Let me adjust that, and I'll get back to you. Wonderful. Thank you. Um, Again, I'm Selwyn Collins, of CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I would like to introduce you to what CWS is all about. Sometimes I feel like a broken record repeating this every week. But in the interest of respect and honor of the show and for our new listeners, um, I will say this, that CWS is about having conversations with people about their journeys. How are they using their gifts and talents to help others? How are they contributing to humanity in a positive way? Um, Tonight, it's an unusual broadcast tonight because it's customary for us to broadcast on Wednesday. However, the guest tonight is a very near and dear friend of mine, Adele Williams, who resides in the UK. Adele is special on a number of levels. She is well. I'm hoping that you will see this tonight as the conversation unfold. How courageous and strong this woman is. Most importantly, Adele is someone who has survived cancer. Is a three-time cancer survivor. I've always wanted to have her on the show because I believe that Adele experiences is very important to educate and enlighten other people, but more importantly, our women. Adele lives in the UK, as I mentioned before, but she's currently in Jamaica. And a few days ago, I was looking at a few photographs on our wall, and I noticed her standing with two other close friends of mine next to a monument in Barbados for the Cubana air disaster. And a spark lit in me, and I contacted Adele and said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't think about this before. Can you come on the show and talk about your journey, your illnesses, and of course how the Cubana air disaster impacted you and your family?" Anyway, but before I formally introduce Adele to you and bring her on, I would like to talk about what has been happening in this past few weeks. For those of you who are not Guyanese, I am Guyanese, as many of you will know. My country is in a state I'm using this word unrest cautiously, only because I can't think of a better word at the moment. But I'm saying this not with caution, but with some hesitation, because the show is about healing and mending hearts. But I asked myself this question the other day: how could I indulge caution when others are suffering and dying? And so I say to you, those of you who are Guyanese and non-Guyanese, to join me for a moment of silence. There were three young men who lost their lives in Linden, a town in Guyana. And I would like to ask you to indulge me for a moment of silence in their honor, starting now. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your compassion. I appeal to all of you out there to take a moment to and pause to think of who you are in relation to those around you, your friends, your family. I'm of the belief that we are not by ourselves. We are not on our own. We are all part of a village, a larger group. Every week I come on the show and I encourage togetherness. And if one of us is hurt, if one of us loses their lives unnecessarily by whatever means, it affects all of us. And the message I want to leave with you tonight before I take the break is a message of healing, a message of love, a message of compassion. At times like these, emotions get frayed and nerves get frayed, and all sorts of emotions come out. And depending on what side of the political spectrum you are, people express themselves. But I appeal to all of you not to look at this situation or this appeal on this show tonight as anything political, but to see it as a humanitarian appeal to you, to dig deep within your hearts and recognize that we are all human beings. And if one of us suffers, then all of us. And the question I ask tonight, if we stand idly by and allow these type of situations to occur, circumstances and events to occur, if any of us is really safe. Anyhow, without much further ado, I'll take a break, and on the other side of the break, I will introduce you to Adele Williams as well. We are back. Those of you who are now joining us, I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. Tonight, my guest is Adele Williams. Who are you there, Adele?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful.
Hello, Selwyn.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Let me just make sure that our audience is hearing you. I'm doing a sound check. Please tell us in this chat room if you're hearing us. Adele, are you comfortable tonight?
I am indeed.
Good. First of all, I want to thank you for taking time off of your vacation to come on this show. I consider it an honor and a privilege. And but you've always been quite a gracious person. Now, Adele, I have known you, or we've known each other since we were children. And I'm happy that you're on the show because you have such a very powerful message. And many can benefit from this. Now, I must ask you this, however, for the benefit of our audience, those who don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
Who is Adele Williams Sewell?
Who am I? That is a deep question. I'm really just the same person you went to school with, Selwyn. Many years ago.
Uh-huh.
I think I am blessed in that I had I had a wonderful childhood, and I think that has given me strength to go through, many of the challenges that I've had. I think the first 13 years of my life were pretty much idyllic. I remember a moment when I was in primary school. I went to Sacred Heart RC School. And I remember one of my school friends telling me that her brother had died in a crash. And I actually remember thinking at that time, that sort of thing doesn't happen in my family.
Hmm.
I think it was a very naive thought, but I remember thinking that life was just so blissful that I never comprehended that anything could go wrong. And then suddenly everything changed. I was 13 years old, and it was actually September 1976, a month before the Cuban crash, that my mother, my sister Jacqueline, my two brothers, and my grandmother were in a horrific car crash. My mother was hospitalized and she lost her memory for some time. And, as I say, as a family, we were in total shock. And we still hadn't fully recovered from that car accident when 6th of October 1976, the Cubana air crash happened, which took all the lives of all 73 people who were on it, including 11 Guyanese, one of whom was my 18-year-old Jacqueline Williams. So you can imagine, I think that really sits in the minds of all Guyanese. I think it is stuck in the conscious of all Guyanese who were alive at that. And I think it was difficult for all Guyanese people, and it was incredibly difficult for our family, bearing in mind that we were still in shock ourselves from the car crash that had injured my mother and my grandmother, and actually had unseen injuries for my two brothers as well. So we then lost them and found out later on that it was actually a bomb in the plane. As far as I'm aware, some of the perpetrators had a short prison sentence, and as far as I'm aware, there is still one person who has had, who has not had to pay any price for that as well. So, I still feel that, as I said, that I am pretty much the same person who you knew, even though, I've gone through quite a lot, but I think it was that early grounding, from my parents, very loving parents, very warm parents, that has helped me through my life to date. And, I come from a big family. I had four older sisters, but obviously we lost Jacqueline in the Cubana air crash, and I've got two younger brothers as well. So we're a very close family, and I think we've become closer as a result of all the challenges that we've gone through together.
It is interesting and very touching that you introduced the Cubana air disaster. I do remember how young I was at the time, and when the news came over and were in the papers, and how shocked we all were, because some of these people we knew personally.
That's right.
And the thing that strikes me the most, Adele, and tonight is going to be a full night, I know, because you have gone through so much and you have persevered. When I think of you, I think of courage. I think of strength. I think of determination and resilience. You're smiling. I know this might be a little bit difficult because we know each other so well, so personally. But I am speaking from my heart because of what I know of you personally and what I know of you through proxy, through our mutual friends. As I said early on, what triggered this whole conversation tonight is the photo that I saw. It's strange that you were on vacation in the Caribbean, and I didn't think of asking you about coming on the show until I saw that photo. So it's amazing. It never ceases to amaze me how some, different things can trigger off, or inspire certain actions in our lives. But anyway, um, I like to I like to visit people's timelines when when we are having a conversation about journeys, because a journey begins somewhere. And I know that I've had the privilege of knowing you since we were children, played parties and all these things. But um, let's go back to the time when, after the car crash, and you said, shortly thereafter, there's this tragic news of your sister,
Mhm.
um, you know, dying in this air disaster. What were you, if you can remember, what were you present to at the time? What type of emotions were you present to at the time?
Um, I think myself and the whole family, we were pretty much in shock because I think, as I said, we'd already been in shock. Just a month earlier was the car crash. So I think we were already in shock. We hadn't recovered from that first shock, which interrupted what, as I said earlier, was an idyllic childhood. So it's almost like, this is something you've not experienced before. You have nothing to base it on. Originally, I grew up in Campbellville. All of the people we grew up with, the Sillses, the Fords, the Ashbys, they are all still close to us. These are our best friends, people whose houses we were in and out of all time. Um, and so I just think that because we grew up in such a comfortable, loving, warm environment, we really didn't have any understanding of such a thing, a bomb in a plane. When I think of myself, I think of myself as the little girl walking barefoot down the road, just enjoying life. And I'm barefoot not out of some sort of third world deprivation or poverty because I don't own any shoes. I'm barefoot just because I like to be barefoot. I want to be barefoot. I'm just enjoying life. And then this tragedy happened, you know, and two shocking things in rapid succession. I was speaking to my older sister Yvette earlier today, saying that I was going to go on the show. As you know, at first I was hesitant about talking about Kibana,
Right.
and she pointed out to me that our family goes for many, many years without anything bad happening, and then one bad thing happens and another bad, and
I think, Adele, I think we just lost your audio just a little bit.
oh,
I like that phrase. I didn't get the last of it. A family goes through um, a period of time without anything happening, and then what?
and then not just one bad thing happens, but a number of bad things
Uh-huh.
happen.
Hmm.
So it's almost like we have long periods of just happy-go-lucky, everything's great, and then we seem to have these things happening from back to back. And when I come to talk about the cancer, um, you know, you'll understand more about what I mean.
Yes.
Mhm.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because today I noticed the activity on the page, the fan page, yesterday and today, when I posted that you were going to be the guest tonight. And I was, first of all, I was glad to see that so much interest. And
Mhm.
I think it is very important for us to spend some time diving into that. I'm sure this is going to be quite an educational experience for many of us, quite informative, um, and to be told, the story to be told can only be told by you. When you mentioned last night about the 3 times cancer survivor, I can't fathom that. I mean, I'm speaking it right now, and I'm thinking, wow, what grace, what grace, what kindness, to anyway. I seem lost for words, and that's really strange. But but
Let,
Adel,
let, let me say a little bit more about the whole Cubana.
okay, sure, go ahead.
What I think I learned at an early age is that you don't take anybody for granted.
Uh-huh.
You know, you see your sister off, you say goodbye to your sister on a plane going to Cuba for her to pursue her dream of becoming a doctor, and you never see her again.
Yeah.
Um, I remember my friends Jackie and Kathy came the day night and sat in my bedroom, you know, and they may not remember, but I remember saying to them, you know, if you love someone, you tell them, you know, you let them know. You don't hold on to that information. And, you know, I think, again, the cancer has given me that message that you take nothing for granted. You make the most of every day of your life. Whether people tend to think that, you know, I think a lot of us sleepwalk through life.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we've got days, weeks, months, years, but in fact, I think more people need to realize that all you ever have is today. All you ever have is this moment right now. And I do encourage people to enjoy the moment, literally, you know, to enjoy each moment.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Marley's song, Wake Up and Live, you know, I think it's wake up out of that sleepwalking through life and live and enjoy and give the best of yourself and to your friends and family and your loved ones. The other thing I learned from the Cubana air crash, when you hear disasters around the world, typically the news reports the number of people who have. They don't, or they often don't report the number of people who are injured. And they also don't appear to give any credence to the fact that it's not just the immediate casualties who are the casualties of these atrocities that happen. In Linden, you mentioned earlier, 3 people died, but I know that many more people will be affected by each of those deaths.
Yeah.
I know the numbers of people, friends of Jacqueline, who, you know, they have been hurt by her death. Not just us as a family, all of her school friends, all of her teachers, my aunts, my uncles, my school friends, you know. So many people are affected just by the death of one person. And I think that that is what terrorists probably don't realize or don't take into account. I don't think that any terrorist, I don't understand, in fact, the people who they may lose families, their own families, to terrorism, and they go on themselves to pursue it themselves. I also see links between the Cubana air crash and 9/11. I see differences in behavior in the George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. in the treatment of the alleged perpetrators of the Cubana air crash and the perpetrators of 9/11. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there's one person, Louis Posada Carriles, who is, by all accounts, holds great responsibility for the Cubana air crash, but he has been let off numerous times for numerous things that he's been arrested for in the US, you know, by, I think, George Bush Sr. and by George Bush Jr. I also recall the Lockerbie bombing. There was actually, my father's name is George Williams, and there was an American father also called George, whose daughter died in the Lockerbie bombing. And he was on television, rightly so, angry and angered by the bombing, but I did feel that my father didn't have the same opportunity to, you know, in fact, I never saw my father express anger at the bombing. I saw him express sorrow. Mhm. I've also seen things, America complaining when Al-Megrahi, who is the alleged perpetrator of the Lockerbie bombing, was allowed to go home when he was dying of prostate cancer. And again, as I mentioned, Louis Posada Paredes is, you know, not prosecuted for his alleged involvement in the Cuban. So, I see the mismatches. I see the American people complaining about Al McGrahy being allowed to go home, but they're not looking at other similar things and considering whether they're behaving in the same manner. Does that make sense?
Got your point. Um, Very, very, very interesting commentary, Adele. I'm trying to I'm trying to bridge the gap, or to create a bridge between the suffering of your family,
Uh-huh.
during the time of the crash, the loss of your sister, and then travel up the timeline to now, or in recent years, when
Yeah.
you were afflicted with cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
This illness that afflicts so many people, there's a very interesting point you made of how tragedies and certain illnesses don't only affect the victim, but it affects other people who are close to them and so on.
Mhm.
Um, I, I want to, how, when you first got diagnosed, how did that affect those around you, those closest to you?
Well, I think again, it's shock. I think I like to think that I'm one of the healthiest people I know.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
And I still catch myself every now and then about to preach. Oh, but I'm so healthy, and then I have to bite my tongue.
Well,
I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in my early 30s,
uh-huh.
and at the time my daughter was probably about 4 years old. I think we'd probably been married about 5 or 6 years. And oh yes, I'd started a new job about a year earlier. We'd moved to the lovely home that we'd always wanted. So I couldn't really have asked for more in life.
Hmm.
And of course, it was just this with this cancer.
Adele, just now your audio slipped, and
Okay.
can you can you run a test? Hello, are you?
Hello.
Okay, good. That's wonderful. We didn't hear the last sentence.
Okay. So what I was saying, I was in my early 30s when I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Uh-huh.
My daughter was 4. I'd probably been married 5 or 6 years.
Uh-huh.
We'd recently moved to a lovely big home that we were very happy with. I'd got a new job a year earlier.
Hmm.
And then lo and behold, I found a lump in my breast. I went to the GP, which is the general practitioner, as we call them GPs in England. She told me, oh, not to worry, it's probably nothing. And of course, I had a scan and was then shocked to I had breast cancer. Before surgery, I was told that I might have to have chemo. I probably wouldn't be able to have another child because of the chemo. I was lucky enough to find that, in fact, the cancer hadn't spread. There was no lymph node involvement. For people who've had breast cancer, you probably know that they normally check lymph nodes on the arm to see if the cancer has spread, and mine hadn't spread anywhere. So it was decided that I didn't need to have chemo. So I had to have radiation. I had 6 weeks of radiation. And I think it was quite shocking. But the good news with breast cancer at the time, I read the statistics and it said that 70% of women get a complete cure. So I was happy. I decided I'm a lucky person. 70% are good odds. And I pretty much just carried on dancing through life. And even though I never forgot that I had breast cancer, I spent a single day worrying that this is going to come back or this is going to kill me or anything like that. So, breast cancer for me, luckily, was touch wood, a happy story. I was diagnosed in January 1999 and it hasn't come back.
Wonderful.
So, as I say, the breast cancer, January 1999, have surgery, have radiotherapy and move on with life. We sheltered, I think my husband was in quite a lot of shock. He had lost his father to lung cancer within months of us getting married. So that we sheltered my daughter quite a lot. So even though she came to see me in hospital, we worked. I think I only spent maybe 1 or 2 nights in hospital, so it wasn't very traumatic. And my sister Yvette came and spent a week with us. And if you know Yvette, she is sunshine in a single package. So, that really, that really helped quite a lot. And I think she continued phoning me on a very regular basis right through the radiation, the radiotherapy. So, once again, the support of my family and friends made a big difference in my life.
Wonderful. Adele, I'm going to take a short break. And but before I do, let me say this to the audience. We have a three-dimensional process here, the guest and myself, and then there is the chat room. Please be encouraged to go into the chat room and ask questions. I know you have, or imagine you have lots of questions. Make your comments. Let us have a family gathering here tonight and indulge this conversation. Okay.
Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment, banking, and lending industry since 1994. With years of experience,
We are back with the lovely Adele Williams as well. Hi Adele, how are you doing so far?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. So Adele, I asked the audience before to go into the chat room and ask their questions and make their comments. Someone in the chat room, JC, says the U.S. is sheltering Posada, and Denny says, you are healthy, Adele, claim it. So, 1999, you said, right?
Yes,
That was the
that's right.
first, okay. And it has not returned
That's
progressively.
right. Touch wood all the time.
Congratulations. That is wonderful. Um, Adele, what I know of you is having this very bubbly, attitude and disposition. As you say, you dance through life and you have fun, and all of us who are your friends are honored to know you're privileged to have this kind of, character in our midst. But what would you say to people who have had who is suffering from cancer, someone who's suffering from cancer, or knows someone close who is suffering from cancer, and you know, and chooses to, or grieves, or is like sort of negative about it. I'm not sure that's the right question I want to ask, but what I mean,
Yeah.
the reaction, you know,
Yeah.
you know,
I hear what, yeah, I hear what you're saying. What I say to people is that if I'm a friend of someone who has cancer, I think you have to let each person claim the illness. I don't want to say their illness because I don't want people to own that cancer. I want them to say it's not theirs. But I think people should claim this and deal with it the way they have to deal with it.
Mhm.
Now, I will say that with the breast cancer, I put it behind me. With the ovarian cancer, I cannot put the ovarian cancer behind me, but because it is always there lurking in the back of my mind. People, I encourage people to make the most of every day, but you have to know, Selwyn, that I have bad days, just
Yeah.
like everybody else.
Yes.
Those days I will just be under the covers, on the duvet, and I will stay there until I'm ready to come back out again and start dancing. But I say, if somebody wants to cry, do not, in fact, I think the key thing is, do not feel you have to be brave for anybody.
Right.
Or if you're going to be brave for anybody, be brave for your children. But don't feel you have to be brave for the adults in your life, for your friends, for your family. And I think a lot of people with cancer feel pressurized.
I sorry, we didn't hear that.
Hold up this strong.
Sorry, Adele.
I
you
think
said-
a lot of people with hello.
Sorry, go ahead. A lot of people with cancer, what?
I think a lot of people with cancer feel pressurized to be brave. And I think that happens to them because people keep telling them, oh, you're so brave. But they might not be feeling brave at all. And they want to cry. And I think the days when you want to cry, you just darn well cry. Because, it's you and it's your life. As I said, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in September 2007. Ovarian cancer for me was a completely different experience from breast cancer because this time I was diagnosed with a late stage illness. The breast cancer, I think, was stage 2. The ovarian cancer was stage 3C. The latest stage is stage 4. The statistics for ovarian cancer are almost the reverse of breast cancer. With stage 3 ovarian cancer, only 30% of women will live for 5 years or more. And I'm not saying 30% will get a cure. I'm saying only 30% will live for 5 years or more. And then of those who live for 5 years, only 20% will live for 10 years or more. And during those 5 or 10 years, how long you live, you can typically expect that you will have a number of recurrences. So you have chemo several times during the rest of your life. Some people are lucky that they have chemo and it's not a big deal for them. Other people have a number of problems. For me, I hate chemo with a vengeance. I would rather have a surgery than have chemotherapy. But at the same time, you know that it's doing you good, so you will take the medicine, take the poison, hope that it's poisoning the cancer and doing something good for you.
You're such a trooper, Adele. Such a trooper.
Well,
What?
again, see, I don't really think I'm a trooper. I just think I don't have any other choice.
And modest, of course, I must add. Yes.
One of my brothers said to me, Adele, in many ways, you're a much better person now since you've had the cancer. You know what I said to him? I said to him, boy, I would rather be the person I was before the cancer. I and not have the cancer at all. But I kind of know things, you definitely experience some kind of personal growth as a result of having these challenges.
Hmm.
I think you do look at things in a different way. I am 100% committed to explaining the symptoms and making women aware of the symptoms of ovarian cancer because, and the challenge of ovarian cancer, it's not just women who need to become aware of the symptoms, even your GPs, your general practitioners, your doctors, who are all intelligent people. Women typically go to them about 6 times before they're diagnosed with ovarian cancer. The reason for this, as you know, the ovaries are deeper within the pelvis, so whereas you can hopefully find a lump in your breast if you have breast cancer, it's very difficult for the you need a combination of symptoms before the GPs can easily diagnose. In the old days, ovarian cancer used to be called the silent killer. And the statistics say that most doctors only see one ovarian cancer patient every 5 years. I think those statistics aren't correct. I think they see ovarian cancer patients many more times, but they turn them away and send them home with incorrect diagnoses. I'm going to hold up something. I have no idea whether you'll be able to see it or not. Can you read that?
Yes. Beat,
Yes.
BEAT, beat ovarian cancer. Yes.
Yes.
B is for bloating, E is for eating, A is for abdominal, T is for talking.
That's right.
Yes.
So these are the standard symptoms of ovarian cancer. And the bloating is bloating that is persistent and doesn't come and go. When they say E for eating, typically when you have ovarian cancer, you find difficulty eating or suddenly find that you're feeling full very quickly. A is abdominal for abdominal and pelvic pain. T is for talking, and it's also for trouble with your bladder. You often find you've got frequent urination. There are also other symptoms like change in bowel habits, particularly constipation. Many women are sent home by the GPs with a diagnosis of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. When I went to my GP, I think my first symptom was sciatica. Now, if you think of what sciatica is, I had this pain that started in the back and went right down my left leg. Sciatica is typically something pressing on your nerve. And often, it will happen when you're maybe in your 40s or older, and one of your spinal discs has contracted. That's the nerve damage. In my case, as soon as I'd had surgery for ovarian cancer, the sciatica disappeared and it's not come back. So my view is that the cancer was pressing on the nerve. So I had that symptom about 18 months before the cancer was diagnosed. Then the other symptom I had was frequent urination, and I would go to the doctor about that. The normal test, if a woman is going to the toilet regularly, is that they give you a test for urine infection. So my test would always come back negative, no urine infection. But nobody said, well, if this woman doesn't have a urine infection, why is she having frequent urination? So the doctors weren't following up, if you see what I mean. They would give you the test would come back. They said, okay, there's no infection, but hello, I'm still going to the toilet every hour, and that isn't normal. And then they would want to say, okay, you're over 40, you've had a child. They're sort of trying to say, well, you're getting old now. Well, hello, I don't think 40 plus is old nowadays. And again, if you're fit, you shouldn't really open. So I think
Adele, we just kind of lost you again there just now.
Yeah. So I think those two symptoms I had for over a year before I was diagnosed. So again, I contest the common thought that ovarian cancer is a silent killer. It's not silent at all. It's giving out messages all the time. we need doctors to listen to patients, and also, I think, almost, I felt in many respects I was being patronized and not really getting the correct care.
Is this why you?
Then I think,
Sorry, go ahead.
yes. So what were you saying?
No, I was going to ask if this is what kind of inspired you to become to raise funds for Overcome and awareness of ovarian cancer. Is it the
That is
experience
right.
you've had? I say.
That
So
is right.
so
My goal is that every woman in the UK, which is where I live at the moment, that every woman in the UK will know the symptoms of ovarian cancer. The same way that I think the breast cancer campaign has been successful, women know that if there's a lump in their breast or if there are any changes in their breast, they must go to the GP. I want them to know that if they get this collection of symptoms and they're persistent, that they must go to their GP. And they must now be persistent with their GP and not accept um, simple answers. I think when about a month before I was finally diagnosed, I went to my GP and I had 6 different symptoms written down on a piece of paper, and I was sent home with 2 different types of laxative. And I think I was thinking to myself, why would you give a woman, a mature woman, 2 types of laxatives when she comes to your surgery to discuss these symptoms? If if I thought that the only problem was constipation, I would not go to my GP. You're sensible enough to know what treatments to take yourself. So I felt very patronized and irritated by the doctor. And I can say that I never took those laxatives. I was going on a wonderful cruise with my wonderful friends known as J. Crew a few weeks later. And while everybody else was tucking into the wonderful food on the cruise, I was eating anything which had fruit and veg in it only. So that when I came home, went to the GP, I was able to say to him, look, I went to another GP, luckily for me, who was more experienced. And I said to him, look, I came a month ago. I was given these silly laxatives. I'm not constipated, but by the way, why do I look 6 months pregnant? Because that is the other symptom of ovarian cancer. Unfortunately, that symptom is mostly at late stage. You have, you're bloating, which is
Adele, hold a second. I just want to, you know, respect the chat room and go there and read some of the comments that are coming in. Just hold that thought for a second.
Okay.
Kali says, thank you, Sel, for inviting us to honor and bless our Linden ones with a moment of silence. Denny says, I am a cancer survivor too. My sis is fighting right now. Family support is awesome. She's winning. Lily says, what, if any, or asks rather, what, if any, lessons have you learned through having cancer about living healthily? Hold that thought, Adele, before you answer that. We'll get back to that. Then he says, Adele, do you find people hide their diagnosis and why? Hold that thought again. JC says, Denny, you're right. I think this is more prevalent among West Indian people. It is almost as if there is shame associated with this diagnosis, although it might just be fear. Sandy says, thank you for sharing from your heart openly, especially how we can educate each other about the cascade of symptoms. How are you doing that in the UK? Thanks. Nigel, Adele, I admire your spirit, courage, wisdom, and strength. It teaches others to not let challenges get the best of you. It was nice meeting you in London. My best wishes to you always. Keep it up. All right, so let's go back to the question Lily asks. What, if any, lessons have you learned through having cancer about living healthily?
But
Adele, I think something is happening with your audio. I didn't hear that answer just now.
hello?
Okay, good. This we got it.
Okay. I have not made any major changes in my lifestyle. I believe that I've always lived a healthy lifestyle. I've never been overweight. I've always done lots of exercise. I've always eaten lots of fruit and veg, which is why I was particularly irritated by being given a prescription for laxatives. It's not something that I would ever use.
Right.
So I don't think I've particularly changed my lifestyle. If anybody looks at my Facebook page today, I will have mentioned that I thoroughly enjoyed some rum and raisin ice cream from the house today. The ice cream is not going to go.
Please don't tell me that. You know, I'm trying. I'm trying hard, Adele. Yes. So Denise says, Adele, do you find people hide their diagnosis, and why?
I think a lot of people hide the diagnosis. I think a lot of people, I have a gynecological cancer. I think it's interesting about, I have ovarian cancer, and at the moment they don't know what causes it. In my particular case, I have got a gene mutation. It's called BRCA gene mutation, and that puts me at high risk of getting breast and ovarian cancer. So I believe that that is why, despite me being the healthiest person in the world, I have managed to get these two cancers.
Adele, how can you say this with such a smile? This is, you see, and I'm trying my utmost not to smile in response, but it is always difficult with you to not smile, regardless of what the circumstances. Anyway, I just had to get that in there. Sorry. Could you repeat that gene, please?
The gene?
Yeah.
BRCA. There are two known versions at the moment. One is called BRCA1, and the other one is BRCA2. So I've got a gene mutation, and that puts me at higher risk of cancers. Actually, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about that.
Okay. Well, before you do, let's take a short break.
Okay.
Right, and then when we get back, we'll go right into that, and we'll address Sandy's question, right?
Okay, lovely. All right.
Okay.
As an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment, banking, and lending industry since 19...
We are back. I'm Selwyn Collins of CWS, Conversations with Selwyn, my wonderful guest, Adele Williams. So, Adele, how are you holding up?
Not too bad, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, so you were saying before the break.
Oh, yeah. So I have got a gene mutation, which is an inherited gene mutation. It's called BRCA2.
Um, again, something with your audio. Okay,
BRCA2.
sorry. Let's try it one more time.
Hello?
Go ahead, Adele.
Okay, the gene mutation I have is called BRCA2.
Uh-huh.
There's also a gene called BRCA1. And these genes put people at higher risk of many cancers. The reason,
We lost you again.
okay, I'm still here.
Yes, okay, good. The reason something?
The reason it's called BRCA is because it was originally identified as a gene which caused breast cancer. They have also subsequently found that it also causes ovarian cancer in men and it causes breast cancer in men and in women. It causes ovarian cancer. It causes prostate cancer in men. It also causes lung cancer. So I would like more people to be aware of this gene because if you've got a number of different types of cancer in your family, it would probably be worth you having a simple blood test which will allow five.
We lost that. It requires a simple blood test, and we didn't hear anything after that.
If people find that they have got a number of cancers in their family,
Uh-huh.
it's worth them asking their doctors to give them a simple blood test to identify whether they carry a gene mutation which is causing cancer. Why would you do the gene? Why would you have the gene in order that you can take preventative treatment or have regular screening to help you identify whether the cancer is spreading, in order that you can be treated at an earlier stage. Early stage diagnosis of ovarian cancer will give a 90% survival rate. Late diagnosis, as I mentioned earlier, gives you, a low chance of being along and may, to involve a lot of chemotherapy and a lot of surgery.
May I go to the chat room for a second?
Sure.
All right. Sandy, thank you for sharing from your heart openly, especially how we can educate each other about the cascade of symptoms. How are you doing that in the UK? Thanks.
Okay, every year I hold an annual fundraiser
Uh-huh.
which raises awareness of the symptoms of ovarian cancer. We always have a fashion show, and last year, for the first time, we had all the models were survivors of ovarian cancer. I'm hoping to start an annual teal walk to raise awareness, and to raise funds for. And I also run a support group for women who had ovarian cancer and their families. I'm a strong believer in support groups, especially for an illness like ovarian cancer, which will recur. It is good to have a place where you can go where the people who depend on you on a regular basis are not there in order for you to express your feelings without worrying about who you're affecting.
Wonderful. Debbie asks, is there any history of cancer in your family? This is a question always asked by doctors.
Okay. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was asked, is there a history of breast cancer in your family? And at the time, the answer was no. I remain, as far as I'm aware, the youngest person in my family to be diagnosed with cancer. However, we have had, my dad died of prostate cancer last year, but he had lived a good age. He was in his 80s. His brother died of prostate cancer more than 20 years earlier. He was in his early 60s, which is relatively young for men with prostate cancer. My great aunts, I had a number of great aunts who had died of cancer, including one who died probably in her 40s, and it was either stomach or cancer. My dad has a cousin who has had and he has another cousin who has had breast and ovarian cancer. She is having her third recurrence of ovarian cancer right now. She started out maybe a year before me, and as I said, she's on her third recurrence. I've had one recurrence up to now. So the answer to the question is yes, there is a lot of cancer in my family. But at the time when I was diagnosed, I was asked, I think, the wrong question because I was specifically asked about breast cancer.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I am one of those who, when asked or if asked that question, I will only think of my immediate family, my siblings, and my parents.
Yeah.
Not thinking about the tree, you know, my uncles, my aunts, cousins, and so on. So
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many who are listening in here tonight are learning that for the first time. JC says, how do you, or asks, how do the insurance companies respond to a positive BRCA test?
Well, I think the UK is different from the US. My understanding in the US is that, incidentally, one of my friends has sent me a note saying that I've left out some of my immediate family have had cancer. I've done that deliberately, really for their confidentiality. You know, I think the old family members is sufficient to answer the question. The BRCA, my understanding in the US, there was the equivalent of an act of parliament which says that you cannot be prosecuted, or not prosecuted, but the insurance companies cannot discriminate against you if you have got the BRCA gene. There's an organization in America called FORCE. FORCE stands for Facing Our Risk of Cancer Empowered. And FORCE is all about people with the BRCA gene. So if people are worried about insurance companies in the US and the BRCA gene, I recommend that you find the FORCE website. And I'd say it again, FORCE, which stands for Face Our Risk of Cancer Empowered. So they will give you all the information that you need. And I believe it is quite safe in the US to have that test, and you should still be able to get insurance, etc., etc.
So Sandy says, asks, early detection seems to be key. What can you tell us about the debate regarding annual versus biannual versus triannual pap smears, mammograms, etc.?
Okay, now I'm glad that pap smears have been mentioned. In terms of ovarian cancer, the smear, otherwise known as the cervical smear, is absolutely no use. Remember that cervical cancer is completely different from ovarian cancer. Cervical cancer, I believe 90% of cases are caused by pap.
So, Adele, we lost you again just now. I'm so sorry about this.
No.
I don't know if it's a connection, but you said 90% of the cases on cervical cancer, something after that. We didn't get that.
Yeah. My understanding is that about 90% of cases of cervical cancer are caused by the papillomavirus. So,
sorry, one more time. Are caused by what?
The papillomavirus.
Oh, papillomavirus. Okay, good. Sorry, we didn't get that.
Yes, yes. And thankfully, there is now a vaccination for cervical cancer, which all teenagers in the UK get, and I strongly recommend people to, you know, allow their daughters, I think their sons, to have that. So the cervical smear detects cervical cancer, and I think people who've not had the vaccination should have this screening. Ovarian cancer, at the moment, they don't know what causes it. So if you are at risk because you've got the BRCA, then I think that you should have regular scans. Normally give you an annual ultrasound scan if they know that you've got the BRCA gene. Mammograms, I absolutely believe in them. You know, it's a few seconds of, what can you say, slamming the fridge door on your boobs, but it's
ouch. Okay. Denny says, did they do a gene test on you?
Oh, absolutely, yes. That's how I know that I've got the BRCA gene.
Okay. And so Debbie asks, how often are you now screened? What type of testing is done to make sure no reoccurrences? Adele, um, okay, go ahead, answer that. I was going to take a short
Okay.
break, but
I had a CT scan in January and I have another one in September. There's also a blood test called CA125 blood test. When I was first diagnosed, that was 2000. A normal CA125 test should be under 35.
so let's take a short break and we'll come back and do some more. You'll educate us some more, Adele. You're doing well so far. How are you holding up?
Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks.
With years of experience as an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded, types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment, banking, and lending industry.
We are back. Salwan Collins and CWS. My guest, Adele Williams. Adele, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful. Adele, before the break, I was thinking about something, thinking about asking you this question, and I remembered your response to your brother when he said you seem to be a better person after after the cancer, and you'd rather not have had the cancer. And it's in that vein that I thought of this. You know, here you've had these conditions, these illnesses, and you've survived. And now you're championing this cause. You're educating people. You're enlightening them. Of course, again, making personal sacrifice to get this message out. And I wondered early on if you felt like that you were actually used in this case, and I'm saying this with some hesitation, but that is the thought, because sometimes things happen to us, and what we might consider as curses or as cruelty, you know, there is some force out there, whatever you choose to call it, I call the Creator, is probably preparing us for some some message that we have to deliver, so on. How do you feel being in this position, having survived 3 times and, at some risk, but being in a position where you can educate others? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's interesting what you say about being used. I mean, I don't really feel that I'm special in that way that I am being used. However, I do remember at one of my down moments, again, I was speaking to my older sister Yvette on the phone, and I do remember saying to her, what is the message that I failed to get, as in why has this thing come back again?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I suppose I did feel that the cancer is coming to tell me something.
Mm-hmm. Have you come to a conclusion? Do you think you've gotten that message?
I'm not sure. The reason I'm laughing, I remembered when I was telling you a few days ago that I was reading your book and it kept opening the same page.
What did it say?
Pardon me?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. You said you read the page what?
I remember I told you a few days ago that I kept opening your book and it kept opening at a particular page as though it was trying to give me a message. That's not, that was the message,
The message was letting go, right? And that another night, another discussion. That book. Well, thanks for reading it. Well, what do you think it is telling you to let go?
Hmm?
What do you think it's telling you to let go?
I already said I wasn't going there, so.
Sorry, I had to ask Adele. So back to the chat room. I'm running. If you noticed, Sandy says, Adele, your knowledge and counsel from the patient perspective is fantastic. What are your thoughts about the access utility of clinical trials? For transparency, I consult with biotech companies.
What is the question? What do I think about access to clinical trials?
Yeah, what are your thoughts about the access or utility of clinical trials? And
I think they're great. A friend of mine took part in the Avastin, and she didn't know at the time, but they're now saying that Avastin gives extra months of life with ovarian cancer. In the UK, I think there are normally a number of trials ongoing. I haven't taken part in any because it is viewed that the response that I've had so far, I should say I've had a 2-year remission. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2007, and then it came back again at the beginning of 2010. So each time I've had 6 months of treatment. So that gives you 2.5 years and 2.5 years, if that makes sense. Yes.
Mm.
So what I'm getting at is that is considered to be quite a good remission with ovarian cancer, to have a 2 to 2.5 year remission. So because of that, I have needed to have gone to any clinical trial. And I suppose the reason I'm saying that is that I think, though it's not always the case, I kind of view clinical trials as a last resort. When the standard treatments are not working, to now go on to a clinical trial.
Debbie says, this has been a very informative session on a topic close to many. How has your faith helped?
My faith. I'm not sure. It depends on what you mean by faith.
Well, should we give Debbie an opportunity to say that, or you want to give this a shot, or move on?
If we want to talk about faith, I would have to confess that I have become the kind of Christian that my mother warned me about. The ones who only go to church at Christmas and Easter. And I have to say that when I have been in the depths with cancer, I have prayed. And then as soon as I'm feeling well again, I'm sorry.
Adele. Okay. All right. Um, all right. The return of the
Are you disappointed in me, Selwyn?
sorry, I didn't hear that title.
Are you disappointed?
Oh no, of course
Are you
not.
disappointed?
No, no, not at all. No, 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 no. Whatever. Listen, I am an advocate of the flow. You know that, and a proponent of the flow. Wherever it takes you, that's fine by me. To each his own. No,
Yeah,
of course not. I have no judgment, nothing whatsoever. It is as it is, right?
yeah,
Good.
good, good.
Um, I want to go to a comment you made about the cancer returning, the
Uh-huh.
ovarian, and when it came back, how was that for you? You know, did you feel did you pardon me if this sounds stupid, but I want to ask it because I'm curious. Did you ever at any moment feel, damn, why me? Is this it? Did you ever? And that's
I
one.
thought before I had a recurrence, I thought that recurrence meant death. So,
Ah,
so let me step back a little bit. When remember that I had breast cancer and
right.
then I had surgery, I had radiation, and then it went away. I had ovarian cancer, I had surgery, I had chemotherapy. I was told I was in complete remission. And then my husband and I went to see the surgeon, and he gave us the news that there was a 90% chance of this coming back. Now, I was not mentally prepared for that. My previous experience with cancer was that if they removed the cancer, you're more than likely cured.
All right.
Okay? So when he told me that I had a 90% chance of it coming back, even though I was in complete remission, I think that threw me quite a lot. And I think I spent the next 2 years worrying about the cancer coming back. I believe I almost brought the cancer by worrying about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I heard that it was back, I really thought, oh my gosh, this is it. I then went to a wonderful place in Bristol called Penny Prawn. And as soon as you walk into that place, there's a sense of peace and serenity. And I think I learned a number of things. The room that I was in, you know what the room number was? It was B9.
B9.
Exactly.
And what's the symbol? What is the significance of B9 at all?
B9,
Uh-huh.
B9, a benign tumor.
Sorry.
A benign tumor.
Oh, B. I asked you not to make me laugh on the show. I asked you that nicely. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I'm
B9. B9.
sorry. They had a healer. Now remember my background. I have a degree in physics. I'm a scientist. I'm a skeptic. I
Right.
went into the healer. Woman put her hand on me. She said, "Oh my God, there's all this heat coming off from me." She said that had never happened with anybody else before. She's not touching me, but she says this heat is coming off. So, me, I went back and go, "Your phone is sorry, but when you're at Penny Brown, you normally I went back to the group.
I
I
don't.
said to them, I am healed. I've had the best room. I'm in B9. And, me just being silly.
Uh-huh.
Really, Penny Brown is a wonderful spiritual place. And I think it actually gave me hope. And I think having had the recurrence, gone to Penny Brown, having met wonderful people there, I think I have largely ceased to worry about the kids coming
I
back.
like that. I like that.
I think that is what really keeps me going.
When you mentioned that after the diet, the doctor told you and your husband that there's a 90% chance, and you started to worry, you worried for 2 years. Just as I was thinking, oh my gosh, maybe she did bring this on, and you said it. And then you further mentioned you going to this place, and you went into B9, and you being silly, were making affirmations. I am okay, I'm fine, I am B9, and so on. And so again, I have to wonder, how much of this is something, some unseen thing that is guiding and protecting you, Adele, that you are still here with us today to inform, enlighten, and encourage us in such a profound way. I have only admiration for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, um,
And this September will be 5 years since I was diagnosed, which puts me into the 30% of people who live for 5 years or more.
and how?
So,
Yeah, sorry.
so my next challenge is to get myself into the 20% who live for 10 years or more after diagnosis.
And I feel, I'm confident because I'm feeling within my heart that you are going to do that, knowing you, Adele. I'm so present to you mentioning that you no longer worry, or maybe are not worry as much. I really, really like that, because worrying is, as we know, it does creates all kinds of, negative things in our lives, and that is so good. You are a beacon, Adele. You are indeed a beacon, and I'm touched. Denny in the chat room. Denny says, "I like that one, B9." I too. I really do. you know, um, I'm going to take a short break again. Right? We're almost coming to a close, and I hate to do this, but I just want to take a short break and come back. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Since 1994. With years of experience as an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the...
We are back, and I don't know why at this point of the show I would say this is Selwood Cause and CWS, but the creature of habit. I have as my guest the wonderful Adele Williams. So, well, Adele, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, getting a bit tired now.
You're getting tired. Well, we're almost there. We're almost there. Thank you. Thank you so much for persevering and so on. As I said, you're a very strong and courageous woman, and I thank you for that. The chat room, Debbie says, your attitude is fantastic. Best wishes and hope all goes well for you, Adele. Enjoy your time in Jamaica with lots of coconut water and soursop. Heard they are both cancer fighting. Great show, Selwyn. Well, thank you, Debbie. So, Adele, This organization that you're part of, I want to touch on that for a little bit. Um, the one that says Overcome, it's a volunteer for Overcome, calling Overcome our ROCC, Regional Ovarian Cancer Coordinator. What does that mean?
Um, Really, the recovery cancer coordinators are all volunteers, and we do the things that I've mentioned. It's up to us to do as much or as little as we want. So I've chosen to do,
You're breaking up a little. You chose what?
I've chosen to do fundraising. I've
Uh-huh.
chosen to do awareness raising,
Uh-huh.
and I also set up the support group that I mentioned earlier as well, because there was no support group for women in the whole of London for ovarian cancer.
Is that so? Wow. Um, as a fundraiser, is there anything you'd like to tell our audience that can assist you in your effort?
Assuming that the audience is largely on the side of the work,
Uh-huh.
there isn't much for my particular effort, but I do know that there's a teal walk in Brooklyn
There's
that happens every year.
uh-huh.
If people go to tealwalk.org, you may know that teal is the color for ovarian cancer awareness. And Teal Walk was set up by a woman who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer the same year that I was diagnosed. Unfortunately, she passed away 3 years later, but her sister now carries on the organization. And I would love your listeners and people watching this evening to go along to that Teal Walk to show support, and also for them to learn, for them to become aware of the symptoms of ovarian cancer. I would like women and men to become aware of the symptoms, because the men will have their wives and partners
Right.
complaining to them about the symptoms, that their stomach is bloating persistently, that they're going to regular basis, that they're having difficulty eating, that their bowel movements have changed. They will be listening to those symptoms. So I would like men and women to become aware of the symptoms and to go to the doctors, to be persistent with the doctors until they get answers to their questions. And, really, I think for all health matters, I believe that I now know that we must go to our doctors and not leave the doctor until you've had a satisfactory answer for whatever complaint that you have. Don't just get their opinion. There's nothing as conclusive as a scan or a blood test. Do not go into the doctor with the symptoms and just let the doctor write your prescription with their opinion if you think that it's something more serious.
Wonderful. Barbara says we are at times used unknown to us for whatever reasons, on purposes. Adele is amazing in the height of her challenges. I am better because of the content of this show. Great use of your platform, Selwyn. Thank you, Barbara. And JC says we have to be in tune with our bodies.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to make a few closing remarks. Adele, I want to thank you very much, rather, for your patience, and thank you for your courage coming on the show. I really appreciate that. I'm sure our listening audience have learned a lot from this. I really would like you to come back at some point and inform and educate us as you have here tonight. Tonight you have given us so many pearls of wisdom about how important it is to have close friends and family and to have that support. And it is very important to have the people around you encouraging you. You mentioned your sister Yvette, who is what they call her something of a package of sunlight. I never heard that phrase before, but I like it.
And my wonderful sister Anita, and my two lovely brothers, and my fabulous friends. You know all of them, the J Crew.
Yeah, I do know the J Crew, and one in particular that is listening right now. Anyway.
One the J into the J Crew.
I didn't say that, Adele. I just said one in particular. But yes, J is for jolly. Um, and well, you know, my closing remarks, though, in all seriousness, I want to go back to my opening remarks when I mentioned the Linden. Yes, I'm sorry. We had lost song there for a moment. I was saying that, you know, we are all Guyanese. You know, those of us who Guyana is a country of 6 peoples, but for some time now, our country has been suffering. Our mother Guyana has been mourning her fallen children, and no country should go through that. I do believe that whenever there is a crisis such as the ones we are experiencing here today, in Linden with young men dying or being killed, it is important, it's our obligation to come together and to seek a solution, not to fight each other, not to call names, not to attack each other. This is a time for us to come together and to seek a solution. But, you know, I must say thank you very much for your attention this evening. Thank you very much for your grace and kindness. Adele, I cannot thank you enough. This message that you brought to us here today have benefited many of our women, many of us actually, but more especially our women, and which are the gems and treasures of any nation. So thank you, and this is Selwyn saying good night on CWS. Tomorrow we're having Jeremy Roberts, so please tune in around the same time. Good night.
Good night.
Est-ce que vous voulez chanter? Bite out, dog bite, oh yeah.